Hello, and the topic today is, can we afford to work? And with me to discuss this issue, as I introduced me earlier, was Dr. Kwesi Amponsateri, occupational health psychologist. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And
you brought such an interesting topic on the table today. But we'll start from what's our current situation in the country with regards to health and safety in the workplace?
Well, thank you very much for having me. First and foremost, I might say that, well, as a country, we don't have a national policy on occupational health and safety. Well, somewhere in 2012, well, some committee was put in place. Well, I was part of that committee to put together an occupational health and safety policy for the country. Well, the committee did its work. The document has been presented to cabinet, and for 2 years now, we're still looking at, well, the document receiving the assent of the presidency and parliament as well. I mean, that's what we're looking at now. But, well, I might also say that, well, we have snipers of policies existing. Like when you go to the labor law itself there's an aspect of it that speaks to the health and safety of employees. When you look at even the constitution of the country, well, aspect of it speaks to the health and safety of employees. When you look at the mining and minerals law, also have aspects speaking to, and when you look at other legislation within other sectors also have snipers of information. But we don't have an overarching policy on occupational health and safety. And what it means to us as a country is that, well, organizations tend to implement occupational health and safety haphazardly. And in an economy where unemployment is on the ascendancy, well, there's that tendency for employers to overlook issues of occupational health and safety in organizations. And that is the situation that we find ourselves in. You reckon that, well, when you enter into an organization, well, issues of occupational health and safety tend to be relegated to the background as organizations prepare themselves to compete with the wider market. Well, they are always keen on cutting down on budgets on occupational health and safety to other sections within there, and that is something that, well, I think that we should reconsider, because, well, if you look at the economics of occupational health and safety, well, it inures to the benefit of the organization if indeed organization will pay attention to issues of occupational health and safety. I guess as we get on with the discussion, some of these issues will be brought to bear.
Doc, now I want to find out, whose duty is it? Is it, you know, you've hired me and I'm complaining to you that, listen, I'm not happy with the work environment, or you who hired me should make sure that the work environment is, the onus is on who should make the complaint?
Interesting, and I think that I'm in love with the question that you've asked. The point is that, well, in the past we have thought that, well, occupational health and safety is the responsibility of the employer. But I'm here to let people know that occupational health and safety is a stakeholder responsibility. The employer has a role to play, the employee has a role to play, consumers have a role to play, and the government also has a role to play. So it's a stakeholder responsibility. If you will permit me, I would get into the roles of each one of them.
Sure.
Well, the employer has a responsibility to provide a conducive and a congenial working environment for all employees. The employee has a responsibility to adhere to all safety regulations and also to use all the protective equipment as provided for in its employment. Well, consumers. Well, consumers, I would say that, well, our role is very important because, well, I can imagine that, well, you purchase the product of an organization. The organization records a lot of accidents day in, day out. Well, this means that you cannot guarantee the wholesomeness of that particular product that you are consuming. Assuming that, well, you purchased, well, canned tomatoes to prepare your meal. Well, what is the guarantee that the blood that got oozed out as a result of the accident never contaminated that tomato that you are using? So you have a responsibility to shun patronizing the worst of organizations that record a lot of accidents. Just that they become aware, just that they become conscious of the fact that, well, you value health and safety. Let's come to the government. The government plays an important role when it comes to occupational health and safety. Well, government will only slap taxes on profits made. Well, accidents that occur in organization will be treated as expenditure. Well, once accidents occur in organization, well, it erodes a chunk of the profit of the organization. So organizations would always have reduced profit margin, which the government would lose out. Government has a role to, put in place laws and also resource. The government will have to resource enforcement agencies to make sure that organizations comply with occupational health and safety laws within the country. Let me tell you what, well, when investors are coming into the country, they look out for all of these things. When investors realize that, well, as a country, you don't even have an occupational health and safety policy, well, it is a recipe for them to forget about it entirely, because, well, the initial cost of putting in place occupational health and safety measure tend to be a bit expensive, but obviously it will benefit the organization. If the organization can cut down on cost by not adhering to, because you don't even have a policy, well, then you realize that they would continue to trample flagrantly on the rights of employees, which includes their right to health and safety at the workplace. So I think that the government has an important role to play when it comes to occupational health and safety, to ensure that the citizenry and all employees at the workplace are healthy and safe to work, to contribute to the development of the economy.
Doc, you've done psychology, so you could help me with it. Is it cultural? Is it lack of education? Is it government policy? What is it that doesn't make us aware of this reality? Because we are not aware of this reality.
Well, it is very true, because, well, but if you, well, from the way you put the question, my response will be very simple. Well, it's an amalgamation of factors. Culturally, yes. Well, we are not really well educated on the issues and the benefits of occupational health and safety, as well as a number of issues. Unemployment issues in the country will cause people to overlook some of these things. Whereas in some jurisdiction, an employee would decline to work in an environment where, well, he perceives hazards. Well, in our environment, well, as one will say, all die be die. And people will get on with whatever they are doing. So I'm thinking that, well, it's one education. Well, even from our upbringing, we've not been conscientized to get to the point of realization that, well, our health, our safety is prime to our well-being in society. So, well, you would need, when you work in an environment and things are, well, you find a hazard. Well, let's say that, well, a sharp edge lying about, you just go around it without you removing it and even disposing it at the right place. Well, people are not culturally sensitized to the issues of occupational health and safety in organizations and even in our environment as a whole. And we grow with this mentality. We grow with this perception that, well, okay, well, whatever will kill you will kill you. It is not about you being healthy.
God will look after you.
Exactly. Exactly, and that is, and I feel like we have a number of proverbs that speaks to some of these things. So we are not very cautious about it. That God pounds fufu for the one-armed man, God will clean the flies of what have you, and because of that, we've not been very cautious, very conscious about issues of occupational health and safety. I think that what education should be more. Many organizations even don't have health and safety, how do you call it, practitioners in them, because they think that, well, it is not part of their core business. And these are things that, well, we need to bring to the fore.
Doc, they say experience is the best teacher. I don't say every market, but most markets in this country have burned down 3 times, not even one. Burned, built, burnt. I think yesterday the Kumasi market, burnt down. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that it doesn't get higher than that. And accidents, we're doing about over 2,000 road deaths in a year, and so many crashes in a year. So at what point do we now sit down and realize that no, it's a reality and we should do something? Because I just feel by now we should have realized that, oh no, markets are congested, and therefore cleaning out for the fire service to get access in case of it. So if experience is the best teacher, what experience would shock us for us to wake up to say that it's true, let us now put things in place?
But I think that, well, we've not had that political will to implement issues of occupational health and safety in our social environment. especially in the market. Well, I was thinking that when we had Kantamanto and the Tema station really being raged by fire, I was expecting that that was where politicians were going to take the bull by the horn and decide that, well, we are going to raise all these structures down and build a modern infrastructure that has all health and safety, infrastructure in there. I was thinking that, well, we're going to take the bull by the horn to do that. But, well, we will politicize it because, well, one faction will say that, well, you are not for us and so on. But that has been the situation. Almost everything in our economy, we tend to politicize it. And we continue to experience it every now and then. It's as if that, well, we are not concerned. Well, I am thinking that, well, the magnitude of these accidents have not been overwhelming enough for politicians to take the bull by the horn. Well, if it assumes, imagine where people, well, let's look at what happened at the May, 9 disaster at the stadium. Well, it in itself taught us a lesson. So you reckon that, well, when you go to the stadiums now, well, though people are flouting some of the rules, some measures have been put in place because of the magnitude of people who lost. And that is, I guess, that is the language that we tend to understand. But I think that, well, the government should have that willpower to say that, well, at this particular point in time, well, we are going to make our environment safe. We are going to make our environment healthy for people to reside and to live in them.
Doc, I mean, when we say work environment, and we are talking about everything, so, I mean, what will constitute a work environment? I mean, is the driver's, you know, in front of his steering wheel, is that his work environment? I mean, what will constitute work environment?
When we talk about a work environment, we are talking about any such environment that an individual finds himself to engage in one trade or the other, one business or the other. And you see, when we talk about the work environment is not only to the professional, because, well, the work environment also comes with clients who come in there. So, well, you are not making the work environment safe just for the employees, but also for people who visit the work environment. Because, well, if I'm to visit your environment, work environment, and get myself involved in an accident, well, you'll be held liable. So, well, it is not just an environment for people who work in there, but it's an environment that takes into consideration all stakeholders. And now it is even moving from just that perimeter that you find yourself in, because, well, the activities undertaken within that environment tends to impact on the lives of those who are not within that vicinity. So I can imagine that, well, assuming that, well, you produce at a certain place, but you emit effluents that travel a distance to also harm other people. Well, it is within your work environment, yet your operations are injurious to other people. So we are talking, when we talk about issues of health and safety, we are not just looking at just the employees within that environment, but also every individual who, in a way, comes into contact with the activity. It is said that organizations operate an open system, which means that, well, the activities of organizations impact on the environment, whereas the environment also impacts on the organization. And that is how we should see a work environment, as an open place where activities impact the environment and the environment also impacting on the activities of the organization.
Look, you've done your research. I mean, if you go to the formal institutions, do they have, like, you know, liability insurance where in case a customer comes and slips and breaks an arm, you know, you have to, you know, give them 5,000 cedis or 10,000 cedis to look up? Do organizations have liability insurance?
This is absent in a lot of organizations in Ghana. This is, and even where a visitor goes to complain about that, well, it is news to them. It is just, oh, sorry. I mean, you go to even our hotels, and you could see cleaners cleaning around without any sign indicating wet floor. You go to organizations, and they are painting, and there are no signs over there. Once you get yourself stained and so forth and so on, all they will tell you is sorry. It is because, well, in our part of the world, we have not, as I said from the onset, really made issues of occupational health and safety a part of us. So, well, people behave anyhow.
Can we argue that, oh, maybe because of economic hardship, you know, our country is not developed enough, the proverbial, we are poor, so maybe another 10 years we'll get there, or we are long overdue?
Well, we are long overdue, I would say. Because, well, if you continue to complain about poverty, and because of poverty you are not putting in place occupational health and safety measures within the organization, what it means is that, well, you are losing out big time. You are losing out big time. And even as well, we are now in a globalized world. Well, you see, globalization also comes with its own challenges in the area of occupational health and safety. So that, well, if you are not abreast with things happening around you, you will bring on board and import wholesale technology without averting your minds to the health and safety hazard that it also brings to you, and put in place measures to resolve it. So globalization has brought in its wake a lot of things. Well, the use of chemicals in agriculture, the use of the computers. Now you have people sitting behind the computers hours on ending without taking a break. It has effect on them. The posture that individuals even assume when they are typing and so, it has effect. There's something we call musculoskeletal disease, MSDs. Well, people have back pains, they have waist pains, etc., etc. And not to scare you, with the event of globalization, well, now we have a lot of high-rise buildings in our capital. But go look at the design of these buildings. Well, we will say that, well, we are economizing the use of the land. At whose expense? Is it at the expense of individuals working in that environment? Because you have buildings being put up there with just one exit point. Should there be an accident? I mean, there are a lot of things that we will talk. There's a paper I'm writing on the topic of beauty and safety. You go to organizations, you would reckon that, well, the executive floors, you have huge flower pots in the middle of walkways. And you ask yourself, well, should there be an event and we have to run out? Well, this is a huge flower pot. You are beautifying the place, but look at a huge flower pot. There's a building here, when you go into the airport area, where you have UT Bank and Vodafone. When you go there, the whole place is tiled. Car park tiled. And you ask yourself, is it for beauty or for safety? When it rains, people have their vehicles slipping through. And you ask yourself, is it for beauty or for safety? So we take on a lot of things as we find ourselves in a globalized world. But, well, we don't factor issues of occupational health and safety because it has never been part of our culture.
I'm going to take a break here, and then when I come back, I'll find out, you know, are we caught in a vicious cycle? Because once upon a time, the army put in an advert for 200 men, and I think they got about 100 and so thousand people apply for this job. Once you get a job, do you tell Sergeant Major that I'm not happy with the working environment, or do you keep quiet and work? Stay tuned. Can we afford to work? And that's the topic, and it's a very important topic, even though we have left it to the back benches, you know, taking it seriously. And God knows how much we are losing as a state. But joining us on the phone now is Sham Una Yakubu, who is a safety officer for Olam. And he's probably going to tell us how things work there. Sham, you're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Sham, you're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Sham, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. Sham, we're discussing occupational hazards and health and safety, and obviously that you work obviously in an industry where it matters. We just wanted to find out how things work in Olam. Now, I want to start by saying, do you find that if you do a budget for, let's say, management, they try to cut down health and safety and you have to fight for it, or for you it's different?
Hello, could you come again?
Sham, I'm trying to find out if you prepare a budget to buy bits for health and safety, do you find you have to fight against management and say, look, it's important, let's go for it, or your management is one that says, oh yeah, this is very good, take the money and go buy it?
Anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity. But I would first of all like to mention that before budgets are made every work is being based on policies being made by a company. So per the policy which you make, every department is given an annual budgetary allocation for the basic materials they will need to run for the year. So protective equipment, which we usually call personal protective equipment, PPEs, are part of every budget that is to be drawn for a year. That's a year's program. So monies allocated for it can never be diverted for any other activity other than that, as per the policy's statement. So the policy we have here is that there are workers at work area becomes a valuable asset to you. So the assets, they being an asset to you means you have to make sure that they have all the basic PPEs they need, all the basic protective equipment they need. And for which reason you cannot sideline their well-being for any other thing. So budgets being made cannot be sidelined as in used for other activities other than what it has been budgeted for.
But generally, health and safety attitude, both from the employee and the employer in your industry, how do you find it?
I didn't get you.
Health and safety attitude, both from the workers and from yourself, how do you find it? Do you have a good culture of work, health and safety? Because generally, it's very bad across the nation.
What happens in every institution as far as safety is concerned is to build in a behavioral-based safety system. And in building that, you need to put in systems such as trainings and others to enable workers to have that safety attitude. Because you lose a worker for any injury-based reason, then you are losing a lot. Your man hours and everything is being affected. So safety cultures, yes, it's something which every institution, and as far as ours is concerned, is a major aspect that is inculcating into workers behavioral-based safety systems. So from management, it is expected that managers put up safety behaviors so that their workers would emulate. It will become a behavior which is a set standard for all workers.
Sham, do you have like a course or a training course for workers? Look, you need to go through this health and safety regulation and pass before I employ you.
Yes.
You have that?
It is a mandatory something for every worker to undergo basic refresher trainings as well as inductions once you join the company. There are other specific trainings which are also done per the job description you are being given. For instance, engineers who do fabrication and welding are taken through strict welding and fabrication trainings. Others who go at height to work at higher levels in the factory are given height trainings and the basic safety equipment they need to put on before they access such places. So training is a full integration of safety. You can't take safety training out of safety in industries.
And how often do you do your review in a year?
It's an annual something, which reviews, it should be an annual something. Every year you need to review trainings, you need to review all systems which you run to improve, because it should be a continuous improvement something.
Well, thank you very much, Sham. I think your organization is doing very, very well. You are not the norm, and keep it up, and hopefully other organizations will join you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Doc, I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do. You have an exam or, an induction you have to pass before they hire you, and every year you need to go and refresh your health and safety. So maybe we can't speak of them, but the others.
Well, I think when we talk about health and safety in organization, it is not just the physical safety bit that he discussed. We have the biological bit. We have the psychosocial bit, and that is huge in a lot of organizations. I heard my good friend say that the employees are their most important asset. But you see, you get into such organization, you've given the employee all the training, all those stuff that the employee needs. But when it comes to supervisor-employee relations, even how you talk to your employee, even how you treat them, psychologically they get a step. When we define occupational health and safety, we say occupational health and safety is not the mere absence of disease, but it is the promotion of physical, mental, and social well-being of employees.
I see.
You are promoting physical, mental, and social well-being. So, well, you would provide all of these things. You provide PPEs, that is fine. But when it comes to your relationship, the way you relate to your employees, you will say your employee is your most important asset. Yet, you have another clause. The customer is always right. So you have customers coming in to insult your employees and you fold your arms. Sometimes in front of your customers, you yell and you insult your employees. It affects them psychologically. So it means that when you do that, their social well-being is affected, which is part of health and safety. Their mental well-being is affected, which is part of health and safety. So it is not just the provision of PPEs. It is not just creating, no. But it is also, it entails a lot.
Even the relationship.
Yes, the social well-being. Let me tell you what. You see, one of the things that we have in the economy is that you have a lot of employees complaining that I'm stressed out, my work is too stressful, man, da. But the question is that, well, find out whether they have been placed in the right role. You find out it is wrong. The reason why employees will complain, for instance, if you are doing something that you love to do, you are doing something that you are predisposed to do and you enjoy it, you are excited about, you don't get tired with it. I love to teach. So you can ask my students in the class, I can teach from 7:30 to 6:30 p.m. and I'm excited about doing that. I would never complain about stress because I find myself in my domain. But what you have employees, because of the unemployment situation we have in the country, well, somebody who read accounting and who is disposed to figures and so forth and so on, who is introverted, then you convert that person into a marketing person. Okay, go do marketing. Well, he's introverted. His personality does not predispose him to do what you are asking him to do. So that bit will cause him stress. Through your recruitment and placement mechanism, you are creating an occupational health and safety hazard to that employee. Because, well, you are disturbing him psychologically, mentally, and socially. So, well, our concentration in the past has been on the physical safety bit. But let us know that we also have the psychosocial bit. When you go to the banks, well, you wouldn't have bank employees complaining about physical safety issues. Because, well, their environment looks so conducive, but they are complaining about stress. What is stress? It is a psychosocial hazard. What causes the stress? Have they taken the pains to find out? So occupational health and safety is not just the physical bit. Let us get a definition right. It is not the absence of disease, but it is it's not just the mere absence of disease, but also speaks to the promotion of the physical, the mental, and the social well-being of the employee.
So have we lost the battle then?
We've not lost the battle. Well, I think that, well, in the past, in our country, we've not had institutions training experts in the area of occupational health and safety. So, well, an individual is reading electrical engineering. Well, as part of the electrical engineering course, there's some bit of safety in there, so he comes back and he's a safety person. Well, an individual is reading mechanical engineering, he comes back and he's practicing occupational health and safety. But gradually, when it comes to the University of Ghana now, the Public Health Institute now at the University of Ghana has a program on occupational health and safety. When it comes to the business school where I find myself, all human resource management students, MBA level, executive MBA level, well, it is a core course. Occupational health and safety management is a core course. Because we think that, well, as human resource practitioners who are the custodians of human beings within the organization, they need to understand occupational health and safety, which seeks to protect the mental, physical, and social well-being. So we are exposing them to, and as we continue to do this over the years, well, we believe that, well, as more people get educated in institutions, well, that awareness will dawn on them, and they would start implementing very useful occupational health and safety measures in their organizations.
Doc, at the university level, is it a bit late? Should we start capturing them from kindergarten, the basics, don't put 2 plugs in there, don't put the naked wire in there, don't put water, I mean, it's captured. So by the time they get to your end, you can do the advanced bit and they know the basics already?
It is very important. It is very important. Well, there's a concept that we call attitude inoculation. Attitude inoculation. Well, if you are able to inoculate our kids around this area, you reckon that, well, they become so much conscious about it. Well, attitude inoculation have been used in a number of ways. In the UK, for instance, well, when they had to deal with drunk driving, what they did was attitude inoculation. Well, to get the kids inoculated against the fact. So, well, what happens now in the UK is that, well, when you are going to parties with your colleagues, what happens is that, well, one person would decide that I'm not drinking this week, I will drive you. So, well, the rest can have a go, and the one who is driving will never drink because they have been inoculated that, well, when you drink, don't drive. When it came to dealing with filth in the US, attitude inoculation was used, where people were inoculated against the issue of filth. Well, so I can imagine that, well, your kid goes to school and is being inoculated through education against, well, littering around and so forth and so on. When you litter, you say, Daddy, can you please pick it up? Because, well, we told not to litter around. It will bring about this, it will bring about that. And now that consciousness will dawn on everybody. So then now we are all. But above all, as I keep saying, we cannot leave occupational health and safety into just the hands of employers. No, we'll be losing that battle. Because in the past, that is what we've done. We have left issues of occupational health and safety in the hands of employers. Employers, in their bid to maximize profit, well, are not looking at that area. It is a collective responsibility. Employees have a role to play. Government have a role to play. Social, all stakeholders, we have a role to play. Consumers, and what have you, we all have a role to play. Civil society organizations have a role to play in making sure that issues of occupational health and safety sit in the Ghanaian culture.
I'm going to take a break now and find out social, civil society. How do we fight and champion this cause? Stay tuned. What are the important subjects on the table today? Health and safety within the working environment and the consequences. But just before we went on the break, Doc, you see, I just want to, I've heard everything you say and how important it is. Now here am I putting an advert, for one position and I get 5,000 people apply for it. Now when they come, surely they're not going to come and dictate to me what working environment they want to work in, so where do we go from here?
But you see, the point is that, well, it's because of our unemployment, that's why we have, but the labor law makes provision for employees not to, or to withdraw themselves from any working environment that they find to be injurious to their health. The labor law makes provisions for that. And in any case, when we're talking about occupational health and safety, we also say that, it is the adaptation of man to work and work to man. That is to say that, well, the human being who is going to work in that environment should be adapted to that environment. And that is the only way you are able to optimize the skills, the knowledge, and ability of that individual. If that environment is not adapted to that individual, well, definitely you are not optimizing the use of skills, knowledge, and ability. So, well, that is why I continue to say that, well, organization stands to gain a lot. They will gain a lot if they implement occupational health and safety mechanism. I'll give you a simple example. I can imagine that in the port, if a ship docks at the port and, for instance, the ship is supposed to pay 5,000 USD per every hour that it docks at the port. This vessel docks at the port. This vessel has, let's say, 8 gangs working on it, and each gang is made up of 12 employees. So you have 96 employees working on it. Well, because of poor working environment, well, one person gets himself injured. In the process, everything will come to a halt. So what it means is that, well, if that process takes about 1 hour, what it means is that 5,000 USD gone. The 96 employees who are supposed to be working, well, they are idling about. For that hour, you are supposed to pay them as well. Well, the injured person would have to be taken to hospital. You have to pay for his medical bills, pay compensation. And even when everything is sorted out and the people are supposed to start working again, psychologically they are derailed, they are disturbed. It affects their performance. So organizations lose. They lose a lot without putting in place. Well, I must admit that the initial cost of putting in place occupational health and safety tend to be a bit expensive. But well, it will inure to the benefit of organization in the long run. It will inure. So well, employees also, and that is why I'm saying that well, all things being equal, employees who have the requisite skills, knowledge, and ability, when they are looking to engage with an organization, they are looking for an organization that has a positive or healthy safety culture. All things being equal. Because well, I cannot endanger my life in that environment. No.
But Doc, I want you to stress a bit more on the social side of health and safety, because I've always seen health and safety more as naked wires, spillage, lifting wrongly, but not taught as much as, you know, my relation between, you know, work colleagues. I haven't taught as much.
Yes, yes. Let us get understanding that, well, working adults spend majority of their working lives within the work environment. Out of the 24 hours that we have in a day, at least 12 hours, because, well, adding commuting to and fro from work, at least 12 hours is spent towards work. Well, you are supposed to spend about 6 hours sleeping. So if you look at your working, the time that you are awake, majority of those hours are spent within the working environment. So social relationship within the working environment becomes very critical to your very existence. It is not just the economic gains you make there. No. I can imagine that indeed you're making economic gains, yet you get into that environment, you are being harassed sexually, you are being bullied and so forth and so. All of these things are part of what we are talking about. It creates, and you see, and that is what actually leads to accident. Normally with accident, once individual does not, you don't have the 100% attention of the individual, it is a recipe for disaster. So, well, petty quarrels here and there in the organization, and really gets an employee off. Talking about the social hazards that you are talking about, let us look at even our washroom, the way we design our washrooms. In most organizations, you open the door and you see the toilet bowl. I can imagine that an employee gets in there, or a superior gets into the washroom, and for some strange reasons, well, didn't lock up, and is seated on the toilet bowl, and all of a sudden the wind blows, and the subordinates see the superior seated on it just like that. His social well-being is affected. I can imagine that the way even where you place it. It said that the employee gets in there, and for strange reason, some noises are coming from the washroom. You come out and everybody is looking at you, your social well-being is affected. I can imagine that the seat that you are provided to sit on, it is not good enough to really take your body. So you have a client in front of you, or you want to slide back and you fall down. The social well-being is affected. So when we talk about social well-being, there are a lot of things within the working environment. Superior-subordinate relationship can. Also, the work design can affect one's social well-being, and the provision of infrastructure within the organization. In most organizations, they don't have eating areas. They don't have eateries. So employees are forced to eat in their offices. You have a client come to visit you, and your whole office smells of kinky. The social well-being is affected. So when we talk about social well-being, in the banks especially, if you permit me, in the banks especially, and I think that the bank managers and managers would have to sit up, because I've been to many banks where you have clients insulting tellers. Perhaps because the system is very slow or something, they are insulted. You could hear them insult them. And the managers and supervisors are seated unconcerned. But as clients continue to insult your most valued asset, the person suffers psychologically, The person suffers mentally because as he goes home or as she goes home, looking at the person who insulted her through no fault of hers, you reckon that, well, psychologically she's disturbed and she wants to leave the job. She doesn't find the job even exciting because she always is. And she always have clients, insulting him or her. All of these things are part of the psychosocial hazards at the workplace that we are talking about. By you not putting the employee at the right in the right role, also can create that condition for the employee. So there are a lot of things in there.
Civil society would normally say, you stand up and demand what is right for you. So where do you start from? That look, for every 10 persons working here, give us a toilet, or for every 5 persons working here, give us... Where will civil society start agitating and how?
Well, let us get it right because, civil society organizations and the general public get affected by health and safety situations in all organizations. Well, not to bring memories to anybody, let us look at the Malcolm incident. In the Malcolm incident, the organization, as we learned, there was a crack in the building. The organization thought that, it would be much expensive, taking its wares out and breaking down the building and perhaps reconstructing. That would have been much expensive. So they didn't do that, so they maintained it. But eventually what happened? Eventually the building collapsed on your wares. It collapsed on human beings as well. You never lost your wares alone. You lost the building as well. You lost employees. You lost your clients. You are suffering your image is dented as an organization. How expensive can that be? Or should I say, how cheap can that be? But I can imagine that, if you had been proactive to take your wares out and collapse that building and build it again, obviously you would have saved your wares, you would have saved your employers, you also employees, and you have saved a lot of your image would have also been saved. So if you think that it is inexpensive not being proactive with occupational health and safety issue, we are getting it wrong. We are getting it wrong. And let us look at it. The civil society bit that we are talking about. What value do you place on human life? You have civil society campaigning on HIV/AIDS. They are campaigning on a number of this. They are all into saving the lives of people. You have human rights activists, all into saving the lives of people. This is also the life of somebody. It can be you as a civil society. You just walk into a shop and it collapses on you. That is why you should join the campaign in advocating for the health and safety. Above all, you cannot guarantee the wholesomeness of the product that you are consuming. If the organization that produces that particular product records a lot of accidents, you cannot guarantee it. It is in our own collective interest to promote occupational health and safety. For occupational health and safety will inure to the benefit of organization and all. The World Economic Forum indicates something. The World Economic Forum says that, organizations that are healthy are also productive. Organizations that are healthy, that is, organizations that tend to place premium on issues of occupational health and safety, tend to be the most productive. Why? Because they tend to attract highly skilled and qualified staff to work in there, because they don't pay unnecessary money for compensation and hospital bills of employees and so forth and so on, because they have their employees energized and employees committed to the work that they are doing, because consumers out there can guarantee the wholesomeness of their produce, and hence they have more clients. And so forth and so on. So organizations that tend to.
Have we done a research to cost how much we are losing to our bad attitude, as a nation?
And that is a major challenge when you attend conferences all over. Monetizing occupational health and safety is the way to catch the attention of CEOs of organizations. But it is difficult. Whereas you can monetize some of them, others you cannot. Because, for instance, If somebody loses his life on the job, the emotional trauma that the family go through, emotional trauma that the colleagues go through, what premium would you place on it? How would you value the life of a human being who loses his life as a result of an accident? So that becomes the challenge. Well, if it comes to the simple calculation of the man-hours lost, okay, well, in this organization, every hour, if it's a labor, we pay him this amount of, if it's a manager, we pay per the man-hour. You can easily calculate it. Well, the cost of an equipment that has been damaged as a result of an accident could be easily calculated. But when it comes to the emotional bit, and the psychological trauma that individuals go through as a result of harassment, as a result of bullying, as a result of social misdemeanor attitudes within the organization. Well, all of these things, you cannot monetize it. You cannot place premium. And that has been the challenge.
Doctor, thank you very much. I hope the education has gone out there. I hope you institutions and CEOs listening would pay a little attention, because once you motivate the workers, your profit will start showing. Doctor, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
And as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thanks for watching.